Love should never feel like an exam. That thought hit me while I stood outside our apartment door with a paper bag of Olivia's favorite pastries growing cold in my hands. My phone showed 3 unread messages from me, all sent hours earlier. Hope your meeting goes well. Don't forget to eat. I miss you. No reply. I slipped my key into the lock anyway. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. On the dining table sat 2 plates, neatly arranged. My favorite pasta rested on one plate, untouched. The sauce had already dried around the edges. A small note waited beside it. Dinner at 7. Sorry if I'm late. Heat up if needed. Love you. I checked the clock. 9:42. The food was cold. So was the room. I stood there longer than I should have. The strange part wasn't that she had missed dinner. The strange part was that I wasn't surprised anymore. This had become our normal. I quietly placed the pastries beside the stove and carried my plate to the microwave. The machine beeped. The food came out warm. It still tasted empty. Olivia finally came home close to midnight. The front door opened slowly. There you are. She smiled as she kicked off her shoes, though her shoulders looked tired. Long day. I nodded. So was mine. She leaned over and kissed my cheek before walking toward the bedroom. My eyes followed her. You ate. I grabbed something after work. She froze for half a second. Oh. Her eyes drifted toward the dining table. You didn't have to wait. I know. You could have texted. I did. She pulled out her phone. Oh. A tiny laugh escaped her. I never checked. She walked over and wrapped her arms around my waist. I'm sorry. My phone was buried in my bag all day. I wanted to believe her. Instead, my eyes stayed on the 3 unread messages still glowing on her screen. She kissed me again. We'll have breakfast together tomorrow. Sure. That single word felt heavier than it should have. People always told us we looked perfect together. We smiled in photos. We traveled on weekends. We celebrated birthdays. We remembered anniversaries. Nobody saw the invisible part. Nobody noticed I was always the one making plans. Always the one apologizing first. Always the one fixing little cracks before they became bigger ones. Every time something went wrong, I found myself asking what I could do better. I never stopped to ask whether she should be asking herself the same question. The next afternoon, Maya met me outside my office. She carried 2 coffees. You forgot yours again. I keep doing that. You keep thinking about something else. She studied my face for a second. Everything okay? Yeah. The lie came too easily. She handed me the coffee. You know, every time I ask, your answer gets shorter. I forced a smile. It's just work. She didn't argue. She never pushed. That was one thing I appreciated about Maya. She let people speak when they were ready. Around 5, Olivia texted, running late again. Rain check on dinner? I stared at the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed back, no problem. Good luck. Less than 10 seconds later, the message showed as delivered. No reply. Again, instead of heading home, I decided to grab coffee. The little cafe near downtown wasn't crowded. The smell of roasted beans filled the air. Soft music floated through the speakers. I ordered my drink and stepped aside. Then I heard a familiar laugh. Olivia. My heart lifted before my eyes found her. She sat near the back window. Across from her sat Ryan, her ex. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years. He leaned forward with the same confident grin I remembered. I can't believe you're actually doing this. Olivia smiled into her coffee. I need to know. Know what? If Ethan's really different. Ryan laughed. You've been dating the guy for 3 years. I know. Then why test him now? Test? The word landed like a stone inside my chest. I stayed hidden behind a tall shelf near the entrance. Neither of them noticed me. Olivia stirred her drink without taking a sip. Because people change. Ryan leaned back. And your brilliant plan? She hesitated. I'll let you get close again. He raised an eyebrow. You think he'll fight for you? I think he'll prove me right. And if he doesn't, her fingers tightened around the cup. Then I'll know he never loved me enough. I forgot how to breathe. Ryan chuckled. You're serious. I need certainty. You could just trust him. She looked down. I've trusted people before, and they left. This time I want proof. He reached across the table. His hand rested gently on her shoulder. She didn't move. She didn't push him away. Instead, she let out a slow breath. If Ethan really loves me, her voice almost disappeared. He'll stay. Ryan smiled. And if he gets jealous, then the test is working. A strange ringing filled my ears. I wasn't listening anymore. I was remembering. Every late reply, every canceled dinner, every moment I blamed myself, every extra effort, every apology that should never have belonged to me. None of it had been enough. Not because I failed, because she had already decided I needed to keep proving myself. The paper coffee cup slipped slightly in my hand. A few drops landed on the floor. Nobody noticed. I quietly stepped backward. One slow step, then another. The cafe door closed behind me without making a sound. Cool evening air hit my face. Cars passed. People laughed. Life continued as if nothing had happened. Inside me, something had already ended. Not our relationship. Not yet. But the blind trust one had carried for 3 years. That was gone. I could have walked back inside. I could have demanded answers. I could have shouted Ryan's name across the cafe. Instead, I kept walking. If my love had become an experiment, then I wanted to know how far they were willing to take it. The truth had only started showing itself. I wasn't going to interrupt it. Halfway down the street, my phone vibrated. The screen lit up. A cheerful message from Olivia appeared. "Hey, Red Heart, want to have dinner together tonight? I miss you." The hardest part wasn't pretending I knew nothing. The hardest part was pretending I still believed everything. When I opened our apartment door that evening, Olivia greeted me with the same warm smile that had once made every bad day disappear. "There you are." She walked over and wrapped her arms around me. "I've missed you." I hugged her back, not because my heart wanted to, because I needed one more moment to understand how someone could lie with such gentle eyes. "You okay?" "Just tired." She reached up and brushed a strand of hair away from my forehead. "You work too much." A week ago, those words would have made me smile. Now, they sounded like lines from a play. Dinner passed quietly. She talked about work, a difficult client, a funny mistake during a meeting, plans for the weekend. Normally, I would ask questions. Normally, I would keep every conversation alive. That night, I simply listened. After a while, she stopped talking. The silence bothered her more than it bothered me. "You've been quiet lately." "I'm listening." "That's not what I mean." I took another bite. "You seem distant." Maybe. Or maybe I had simply stopped running after someone who enjoyed watching me chase her. The next few days followed the same pattern. My messages became shorter. No more good morning paragraphs. No more surprise lunches. No more checking whether she got home safely every single night. Not because I stopped caring. Because love should never become a performance. She noticed. I could see it every time she glanced at her phone. Every time she waited a little longer for another message that never came. Friday afternoon, another text appeared. "Ryan bumped into me today. Funny coincidence." I stared at the screen. Coincidence. The word almost made me laugh. I typed one sentence. "Hope you had a good day." Nothing more. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Finally, her reply came. That's all. I locked my phone. She came home unusually early that evening. The apartment smelled like takeout. She placed 2 bags on the counter. "Thought we could have dinner together." "Thanks." She waited, apparently expecting something else. "You don't seem jealous." I opened the food containers. "Should I be?" Her smile faded for a moment. "No, I just thought." She never finished the sentence. Neither did I. The test wasn't going the way she expected. She wanted me to react, to question her, to fight, to prove my love. Instead, I quietly removed myself from the game she had created. That confused her more than any argument ever could. Saturday morning, I met Daniel. My older brother always chose small diners over expensive restaurants. They make better coffee. You've said that for 10 years. And I've been right for 10 years. He pushed a mug toward me. "You look awful." "I've looked worse." "Not on the outside." He folded his hands. "What's happening?" The question stayed between us. I could have lied. Instead, I took a slow breath. What happens when someone keeps asking you to prove you love them? Daniel didn't answer immediately. He stirred his coffee. Finally, he looked up. "You'll spend so much time proving it that one day you'll realize they never bothered proving they loved you." His words landed exactly where they needed to. "I think that's where I am." He nodded slowly. "So stop taking the exam." Later that afternoon, Maya joined us at the park. She listened quietly while I explained everything except the cafe. I wasn't ready for that part yet. When I finished, she leaned back on the bench. Ethan, healthy love feels peaceful. I watched children playing across the grass. What if peace disappeared so slowly you didn't notice? Then you're noticing now. She smiled sadly. You don't owe anyone endless chances just because you love them. That night, Olivia left her phone charging beside the couch before stepping into the shower. Normally, I never touched it. Never wanted to. Trust had always been enough. Now trust had already been broken. The screen lit up. A message appeared. Ryan, think he's catching on yet? My heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. Almost like part of me already knew. Her phone wasn't locked. One swipe. The conversation opened. Message after message. Weeks of planning. Weeks. Ryan, ignore him for a while. Olivia, he always tries harder afterward. Ryan, perfect. Let's see how loyal he really is. Olivia, if he stays calm, I'll know he loves me. Ryan, and if he walks away? A long pause before her answer. Then one sentence. He won't. Another message. 3 days before the cafe. Ryan, meet me Thursday. We'll make it obvious. Olivia, just don't overdo it. Ryan, relax. He'll fight for you. Olivia, he always does. Every word stripped away another excuse. This wasn't fear. This wasn't insecurity. This was entertainment built for my loyalty. Hands shaking, I took screenshots. Every page, every conversation, every joke they shared about my reactions. I sent them to my phone, then deleted the evidence from her recent files so she wouldn't notice immediately. Finally, I placed her phone exactly where it had been. The shower was still running. She had no idea my world had ended while she washed her hair. I sat alone in the bedroom. My phone rested in my palm. The screenshots glowed against the dark room. I opened my contacts. Olivia. My thumb hovered over the delete button. One tap. The phone asked for confirmation. Delete contact? I stared at the screen. Not yet. Instead, I canceled it, closed my eyes, and created a new draft message. I know everything. I read it once, then erased every word. She didn't deserve a warning. Sunday morning arrived quietly. I packed a small overnight bag, just enough clothes for a few days. A toothbrush, my laptop, a framed picture of my parents. The bag rested beside the bedroom door. Olivia noticed it immediately. Business trip? No. She frowned. Then why are you packing? I just need some space. Her face changed. Not guilt. Confusion. This is because of Ryan, isn't it? I slipped my wallet into the bag. Should it be? You've been acting strange. I've been thinking. About what? I zipped the bag closed. About who I used to be. She stepped closer. Ethan. Her voice softened. I love you. The words floated through the room. Once they would have fixed everything. Now they collided with screenshots hidden inside my phone. I picked up my bag, reached into my pocket, pulled out the apartment key. She blinked. What are you doing? I placed the key gently on the hallway table. No anger, no accusation, no speech, just the quiet sound of metal touching wood. Her breathing changed. Ethan, a small step forward. Wait. I opened the front door. Behind me, panic finally entered her voice. What does this mean? The apartment key had barely left my hand before my phone started ringing. Olivia. I watched her name glow across the screen until the call ended. A second later, another one came. Then another. The phone finally became quiet. Only for a moment. A message appeared. Please tell me where you are. I read it, then locked my screen. Not because I wanted to hurt her, because I finally understood that answering every call had slowly taught her she could never lose me. That lesson was over. Daniel opened his front door before I could knock. I figured you'd show up. You always do. He stepped aside. The guest room had already been prepared. Fresh sheets, a folded towel, a small lamp glowing beside the bed. You planned this. I planned for the possibility. A faint smile crossed his face. I know my little brother. That single sentence almost broke me. Not because I was weak, because someone had quietly made room for me before I admitted I needed one. The next morning, my phone showed 12 missed calls. 9 messages, all from Olivia. Please come home. Can we talk? You're scaring me. Whatever this is, we'll fix it. I read every word. None of them mentioned Ryan. None of them mentioned the test. She still believed she controlled the story. She had no idea I had already reached the last chapter. Instead of replying, I went to work. My manager stopped me near the elevator. "Ethan, morning. You've been offered the Chicago project." I blinked. "The promotion?" He nodded. "We need an answer by next week." Months ago, I had turned down the first offer because Olivia didn't want a long-distance relationship. Now there was nothing stopping me. "I'll think about it." He smiled. "Take your time." For the first time in weeks, I realized my future could be bigger than my heartbreak. That evening, Maya invited me to dinner. She noticed the tired circles under my eyes, but didn't force the conversation. "You've been carrying everyone else's feelings for a long time." She slid a plate toward me. "How does it feel, carrying your own?" "I don't know yet." "Good." I laughed quietly. "Good. It means you're finally asking yourself." She raised her glass. "To new questions." I lifted mine. "To better answers." Days passed. Then another week. Olivia kept reaching out. The number beside her conversation kept growing. 5 unread messages. 9, 14, 23. Some were short. "Please." Some were long. "I don't understand why you're shutting me out. If I did something wrong, tell me. I can't fix what I don't know." That line stayed with me. Not because I believed it, because she already knew exactly what she had done. One Saturday morning, Daniel helped me return to the apartment. Olivia wasn't home. That made everything easier. My suitcase rolled quietly across the wooden floor. The bedroom felt strangely unfamiliar. Half the closet still belonged to me. Shirts, jackets, shoes. The life I thought would last forever. I packed each item carefully. No rushing, no anger, just acceptance. The framed photo from our first vacation rested on the nightstand. We looked so happy, or maybe we only looked convinced. I picked it up, studied our smiling faces, then removed the picture from the frame. The empty frame stayed behind. The photo folded neatly into my backpack, not as a memory to keep, as a reminder of what trust looked like before someone turned it into a game. Daniel carried the last box toward the front door. "That's everything." I glanced around the room. My side of the closet stood empty. The shelves no longer held my books. Even the coffee mug she always teased me about was gone. It didn't look like my home anymore. Maybe it hadn't for a long time. As we reached the parking lot, another message arrived. "I came home. Where are your things?" Then another. "Ethan, what happened?" 5 minutes later. "Please answer me." The phone remained in my pocket. A few days later, Maya called. "You should probably know something." "What is it?" I ran into Grace, Olivia's older sister. She asked if I'd heard from you. And I didn't lie. I stayed quiet. Maya continued. "I told her I thought you left because of something serious." "What did she do?" She looked confused. Another pause. "I don't think Grace knew anything." The answer came 2 days later. Not from Olivia. From Grace. Her name flashed across my phone. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. "Ethan." Her voice sounded careful. "I need to ask you one question." "Go ahead." "Did Olivia test you?" The apartment around me suddenly felt smaller. "So I know enough." She let out a slow breath. "I found messages." My grip tightened around the phone. "What happened after that?" "I packed my things." Another long pause. Then her voice cracked. "I can't believe she actually did it." Neither could I. Grace called again that evening. This time she didn't ask questions. She simply told me what happened. I confronted her. What did she say? She kept saying it wasn't supposed to go this far. I closed my eyes. Grace continued quietly. I asked her one thing. "What? Why did you need proof from the only man who never gave you a reason to doubt him?" The room stayed silent. "I didn't have an answer either," Grace whispered. Meanwhile, Ryan finally realized nothing was happening. No fights. No dramatic scenes. No jealous boyfriend showing up. No competition. Without chaos, the game bored him. Grace told me he stopped replying to Olivia's messages. Stop calling. Stop pretending to care. Exactly the way people like him always did. He had never wanted Olivia. He had wanted entertainment. Once I refused to play, the stage became empty. Weeks passed. My phone now held dozens of unread messages. Apologies. Questions. Voice notes. Photos. Old memories she suddenly wanted to revisit. Every notification reminded me how quickly certainty can disappear. She had once believed I would never leave. Now she couldn't even reach me. Work became easier. I accepted the Chicago promotion. My team congratulated me. Daniel insisted on taking me out for dinner. You finally chose yourself. I almost forgot how. You remembered. He smiled proudly. That's enough. One Friday afternoon, the office felt lighter than usual. A difficult project had finally ended. Everyone gathered near the break room. Someone told a terrible joke. Groans filled the room. Against my own expectations, I laughed. Not the polite laugh I used to fake. A real one. Warm. Natural. It surprised even me. Then the room suddenly grew quiet. Not because of the joke. Because someone had appeared near the glass entrance. Olivia. She stood completely still. Her eyes found me immediately. The smile on my face hadn't disappeared yet. For months, she had waited for me to come back. Now she was seeing something she had never planned for. I was smiling again. The only difference was that this time, it had nothing to do with her. The smile disappeared from my face the moment I noticed Olivia standing outside the office. She looked different, not because of her clothes, not because of her hair. The confidence she always carried had vanished. She stood with both hands wrapped around her purse, as if it were the only thing keeping her steady. Several coworkers glanced toward the entrance before quietly walking away. Nobody wanted to interrupt. Neither did I. I stepped outside. The afternoon breeze carried the smell of rain. You found me. Her eyes searched my face. I've been trying for weeks. I know. You read my messages? Most of them. A tiny spark of hope appeared. Then, why didn't you answer? I took a slow breath. I already had my answer. Her shoulders dropped. Ethan, please. The parking lot was almost empty. Cars rolled past without slowing down. She took one careful step closer. I never cheated on you. I know. It wasn't real. I know. It was just a test. Those 4 words landed harder than anything else she could have said. Not because they surprised me, because she still believed they made things better. I was scared. Her fingers twisted around the strap of her purse. I've been hurt before. I know. My last relationship destroyed my trust. I know that too. She wiped at her eyes. I thought, if you stayed loyal through something difficult, I'd finally stop being afraid. I nodded once. So you chose manipulation instead of honesty. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. You could have told me your fears. I didn't know how. You knew how to plan a test. Her head lowered. You knew how to meet Ryan. Another tear slipped down her cheek. You knew how to hide messages. The only sound between us came from distant traffic. I never wanted to lose you. The sentence almost sounded like a whisper. But you were willing to risk me. She closed her eyes. I didn't think you'd leave. That's the problem. She looked back at me. You believed loving you meant accepting anything. Her phone vibrated. She ignored it. Then it rang again. This time she glanced down. Ryan. She hesitated before answering. I stayed where I was. There was nothing left to hide. What? Her voice carried exhaustion instead of affection. Even standing a few feet away, I could hear him laughing through the speaker. You still chasing your boyfriend? Her face stiffened. This isn't funny. It was fun while it lasted. You promised you'd help. I promised I'd play along. A short laugh came from the phone. I didn't think he'd actually walk. You encouraged this. So did you. She covered her mouth. You ruined everything. No. Another laugh. You did. The line went dead. She stared at the screen for several seconds, then slowly lowered the phone. The truth sounded different when it came from the person who helped create it. 2 days later, our mutual friends finally learned what had happened. Not because I announced it, because Ryan didn't care who knew. He joked about it during a gathering. Someone recorded part of the conversation. Within hours, everyone had heard the story. Not the version Olivia wanted, the real one. Ryan openly admitted he never believed loyal people existed. I figured he'd explode eventually. His careless words spread faster than anyone expected. He was just entertainment. That sentence reached people who had celebrated birthdays with us. People who had watched our relationship grow. Nobody laughed. Messages began arriving from friends, not asking me why I left, asking whether I was okay. One by one, they understood. Nobody defended Ryan. Very few defended Olivia. She wasn't hated. She was simply facing the weight of her own choices. No one had forced her into the plan. Grace called again. I've never seen her like this. I stayed quiet. She barely leaves the apartment. Another pause. The hardest part isn't that you left. What is it? She finally understands why. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. The framed vacation picture rested inside a drawer. I took it out one last time. Our smiles belonged to another version of us. Another version of me. The man who believed trust could survive anything. I opened my phone, scanned the photo, deleted the digital copy forever. No dramatic speech. No anger. Just one tap. The screen asked for confirmation. I pressed yes. Some memories deserve to stay in the past. A week later, Olivia sent one final message. Please meet me once. After that, I'll stop asking. I stared at the screen for several minutes. Not because I wanted to go back. Because unfinished conversations can leave invisible chains. I didn't want any chains. So I agreed. She chose the same restaurant where our first date had taken place. Nothing had changed. The same soft lights. The same music. The same window table. Only we were different. She was already waiting when I arrived. The chair across from her remained empty until I sat down. For a few moments, neither of us reached for the menu. Neither of us touched the water glasses. This place used to make me happy. Her voice barely carried across the table. It still serves good food. A sad smile crossed her face. You always knew how to make things simple. I learned complicated usually hurts. She slid something across the table. The apartment key. I kept hoping you'd come back for it. I looked at the key resting between us. Cold. Ordinary. Heavy. It belongs to you. No. I gently pushed it back. It belongs to the life we already ended. She wrapped her fingers around it, but didn't put it away. I've replayed everything. She stared at the table instead of me. The cafe. The messages. Ryan. I kept thinking maybe if I had stopped sooner. I waited. Or trusted you instead. Her voice faded. You didn't trust me. I wanted certainty. You wanted control. The words were calm. Not cruel. Just true. She nodded slowly. I hate that you're right. Outside the restaurant. Rain began tapping softly against the windows. People hurried past with umbrellas. Inside, time seemed slower. I kept expecting you to fight for me. I fought for us for 3 years. She swallowed hard. I just didn't notice. I don't hate you. Those words surprised both of us. Her eyes lifted immediately. But I can't love someone the same way after they turn my heart into an experiment. She pressed both hands together. I know. You didn't lose me because Ryan existed. Her breathing became uneven. You lost me because you believed Ryan deserved a place in our relationship at all. Another tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away this time. Maybe she understood that some things cannot be hidden. The check arrived. I quietly paid my half. She reached for her purse. I stopped her with a small shake of my head. Separate. She nodded. Even the bill reflected the truth. We no longer shared a future. We only shared one last conversation. As we stood to leave, she remained beside the table for another moment. Her fingers rested lightly on the apartment key. Then she finally looked at me. There was no anger left, only regret that had arrived far too late. If I had trusted you from the beginning, her voice trembled. Would we still be together? If I had trusted you from the beginning, would we still be together? Her question stayed between us. The restaurant around us faded into the background. Plates clinked somewhere across the room. Soft music floated through the speakers. None of it mattered. I looked at the woman I had once imagined growing old with. She wasn't the same Olivia I had fallen in love with. Then again, I wasn't the same Ethan who believed love could survive without trust. A slow breath escaped me. Maybe. Her eyes filled with hope for a single heartbeat. Then I finished. Maybe we would have had a future. The hope disappeared. But trust only dies once. She lowered her head. I know. I spent 3 years trying to become the man you needed. My hands rested calmly on the edge of the table. You only needed to believe I already was. A tear slipped onto the tablecloth. She didn't reach for it. Neither of us tried to rescue the moment. Some moments aren't meant to be saved. She stood first. So this is goodbye. I nodded. It is. She waited, maybe expecting one last promise. One last chance. One last reason to believe the story could change. There wasn't one. She picked up the apartment key from the table. Her fingers closed around it. I don't know what to do with this anymore. I gave a small smile. You'll figure it out. Those were the final words I spoke to her. No anger. No dramatic farewell. Just the truth. Then I turned toward the door. This time I didn't hope she would stop me. Outside, the rain had already ended. The streets reflected the city lights. Every step felt lighter than the one before it. Not because the pain had disappeared, because I'd stopped carrying guilt that never belonged to me. I hadn't failed her test. She had failed our relationship. There was a difference. One mattered. The other no longer did. The next morning I woke before sunrise. Daniel found me standing on his apartment balcony with a cup of coffee. Couldn't sleep. I actually slept better than I expected. He leaned against the railing beside me. You made peace with it? I'm trying. He watched the sky slowly brighten. You know something? What? I'm proud of you. I laughed softly. For getting my heart broken? For remembering your worth before it was too late. Those words stayed with me long after he went back inside. A month later, I moved into a small apartment in Chicago. It wasn't fancy. The walls were plain. The kitchen was tiny. The windows overlooked a busy street instead of a beautiful park. Still, it felt peaceful. Everything inside belonged to the life I was building instead of the life I was trying to save. On my first morning there, sunlight poured through the window. Golden light spread across the wooden floor. I stood quietly with a mug in my hands and watched the sunrise. It didn't erase the past. It simply reminded me that every day begins whether we're ready or not. This time I was. Work became exciting again. The new project challenged me. New coworkers treated me like someone with a future instead of someone trapped inside yesterday. Maya called every weekend. So, her cheerful voice filled the speaker. Big city treating you well. Better than I expected. You smiling more? I think so. I knew it. She laughed. You sound lighter. Maybe I did. Not because life had become perfect, because my heart no longer spent every day waiting for another test. One evening Grace called. I thought you should know. I already had a feeling. What happened? Olivia quit her job. I stayed quiet. She wanted a fresh start. That's probably a good idea. Grace sighed. She still talks about you. I hope one day she doesn't. Another pause. I think she finally understands. I hope she understands for herself. Not for me. Not to win me back. Only so she never hurts another person the same way. Weeks turned into months. One afternoon, curiosity almost got the better of me. Almost. My thumb hovered over Olivia's contact. The old conversation was still there. Hundreds of messages. Good mornings. Vacation plans. Inside jokes. Photos. Promises. Dreams. A whole relationship trapped inside a phone. I scrolled to the very beginning, then all the way to the end. The final message still waited unread. Please, just tell me if there's any hope left. I closed my eyes, not because the choice was difficult, because every ending deserves respect. Then I selected the conversation. The screen asked one question. Delete permanently? My thumb pressed the button. The messages disappeared. No countdown. No dramatic music. Just empty space where our history had lived. Sometimes healing begins with one quiet decision. A minute later, I opened my contacts. Olivia. Block number. The phone asked me to confirm. I did. The screen returned to silence. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't revenge. It was a boundary. Something I should have learned much earlier. Life kept moving. Daniel visited during the holidays. We cooked terrible food together and laughed anyway. Maya came to Chicago for a conference. She insisted we try the worst-rated pizza place in the city just to see if the reviews were right. They were. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. Those simple moments taught me something important. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply stays. Sometimes memories still appeared without warning. A song, a cafe, a certain perfume drifting through a crowd. They no longer pull me backward. They simply reminded me of the man I used to be. The man who believed love meant endless sacrifice. I don't blame him. He loved with everything he had. He just loved someone who believed trust needed to be tested. Months after our final meeting, I walked past a jewelry store on my way home. A young couple stood outside the window. The man nervously held a small ring box. What if she says no? The woman beside him laughed. You haven't even asked yet. He smiled. Then they walked away together. I found myself smiling too. Real love doesn't begin with fear. It begins with trust. That simple truth had cost me almost everything. Now, but it had given me something even more valuable. Myself. That evening I unlocked my apartment door. The rooms were quiet. Comfortably quiet. No waiting. No guessing. No wondering whether I was enough. I placed my keys in the small bowl by the entrance. Took one slow breath. Then closed the front door behind me. Only then did I fully understand what had happened. The real loyalty test had never belonged to Olivia. It belonged to me. Every day after discovering the truth, I faced one question. Would I stay loyal to someone who kept doubting my love? Or would I finally become loyal to myself? The answer had changed my life. The first person who walked away was never the one who lost. He was the one who finally found himself.